Can't you keep your eyes off those twinkling stars that shine so brightly in the night sky? Have you read all those books that take you on an incredible and cool journey through the universe? Does your bedroom look like a direct copy of our cosmic freezer? And are you that glued to your telescope that they have to surgically remove you from it? If so, then you were most likely born to have a scientific career in astronomy. Astronomy. Needless to say that this is a scientific study of celestial objects such as stars, planets, comets, and galaxies, and phenomena that originate outside the Earth's atmosphere, such as the cosmic background radiation. Historically, astronomy has included disciplines as diverse as astrometry, celestial navigation, observational astronomy, the making of calendars, and even, at one time, astrology. But did you know that since the 20th century, the field of professional astronomy has split into observational and theoretical branches? I am your host, Maria Anna van Driel, and you are listening to The Next Truth, where science and myth meet. And this week, I'm speaking with Executive Officer and CEO at AAVSO, STEM promoter and astronomer Dr. Stella Kafka, and discuss with her the fascinating science of astronomy and the importance and influences of the female scientist. Dr. Kafka, or do I pronounce your name correctly? Kafka
Yes.
or Kafka?
It's Kafka. Thank you.
Kafka. Dr. Kafka, welcome to the radio program of The Next Truth, where science and myth meet. I read your LinkedIn profile, and I must say that describes an impressive journey. But for our listeners, who is Dr. Stella Kafka?
Dr. Stella Kafka is a person who was born and raised in Greece and is carrying Greece with her no matter where I go. I finished my schooling there and I got a bachelor's in physics from the University of Athens. And then I came in the United States to get my PhD, my master's and PhD in astronomy. I am what you call an observational astronomer, a stargazer, a person who loves taking data and analyzing them and trying to build a three-dimensional picture of the universe, actually a four-dimensional picture of the universe, considering that I'm looking at things that change with time. So there's the fourth dimension, which is time. From after my PhD, I held several fellowships. So I had the chance to work in Chile at the Cerro Tololo Inter-American Observatory, where I was a fellow there and I was doing my own research. But I was also the site director of a program that is funded still from the US to bring students to train them in scientific projects down there. So I got a little bit into the administrative organizing things. And I really like putting things together for a specific role. And from there, I was at Caltech for a couple of years, a postdoc at the Carnegie Institute of Washington as a NASA Astrobiology Institute fellow. I had a short tenure at the American Institute of Physics, and then here at the AVSO, where I am the executive director and CEO of the organization. I'm pretty sure we're going to talk more about the AVSO, but let me tell you who Stella is. Stella is an explorer. She's an international explorer. And she's also a person who loves building communities around science. I really believe that as a field, astronomy is global, has no borders. And if not anything else, it unites us. It brings us under a very beautiful umbrella, trying to build a picture of the universe. And as such, it doesn't care in principle about race or gender or backgrounds or socioeconomic situations or even location. What he cares about is a respectful environment of exchanging ideas. And this is pretty much my own personal goal. I would like to see more women in astronomy, but I'd also like to see more diverse voices in astronomy because we're better when we're learning from each other this way. So Stella is, I guess, a pilgrim and an explorer, and someone who is trying to make a difference in the world. I guess that my big satisfaction where I'm enabling others to do what they love and have their own voice.
So, what influenced you to step into astronomy? Or did you were you, as a little girl always gazing at the stars, wondering what is beyond them, or that you perhaps one day could find that one particular planet that nobody saw yet? What influenced you?
Not quite. See, I grew up in a big city. I grew up in Athens in Greece, and it's extremely polluted and extremely light polluted. So from there, you could see only, the sun, the moon, and comet Hale-Bopp. It went through its closest flyby to the Earth when I was an undergraduate student. So my approach to astronomy comes through physics. I always wanted to know how nature works. I'm one of those people, I grew up as a very dangerous sort of child in our household. I would walk in the kitchen and try experiments, and my parents would always be in the lookout, as in, am I going to burn the whole house? I'm going to hurt myself. What am I going to do next, right? But I was
Watch out!
very...
I'm going to do science.
Yes, what is she doing here on the stove? And oh my gosh, we have a gas stove, so there's real fire flames there. And why is she trying to boil different things? And why is she breaking things? But both my parents always encouraged both myself and my brother to follow our own inclinations and to do whatever we want in a safe way. Okay, so don't kill yourselves, right? Don't put your head in the hot oven, for example. So they actually cultivated that curiosity. They really helped us grow through that. Children are natural explorers. So when you let them, they're following the scientific method, as in theorize, experiment, rebuild theory, experiment again, and then come up with a conclusion like no one else. And this is something that we don't learn. It comes as our instinct. So again, this was pretty much what both me and my brother were doing growing up. And my parents really encouraged us as long as we were doing it in a safe way. So at some point when I was in middle school, elementary school, I was a straight A student. But at some point I found that physics helped me get answers on how nature works. What if you break nature down to its basics? How does it work, right? What are the building blocks? What are the processes? What are the evolution of different events that we see around us? So I went to the physics department to become a physicist. And at that time, I was attracted to the night sky, as we all are. But as I said, I was never really exposed to dark skies because I grew up in a really big city. So as an undergraduate student, I had the opportunity to actually work on different projects. I worked in a solid-state physics lab. I loved seismology. Greece is a very seismogenic country, so earthquake prediction is a huge research field. And I was very attracted to astronomy as a science because I was very curious. As in, okay, so how do you explore the universe? It's not that you can go and take a scoop of stars, right? It's not that you can actually go and take a picture. How do you do that? So I decided to do my undergraduate thesis in astronomy. And even then, I remember my undergraduate thesis advisor, Dr. Mary Contizas, who is a dear friend now. She told me, astronomy is addictive. Just be careful what you're doing. So I finished with my thesis. It was a wonderful experience. And I went to her and I said, I want to get a PhD in astronomy. And she said, are you sure? And when I actually said that, yes, that's exactly what I want to do, she's like, okay, let's do it. So I applied to different schools. I chose Indiana University for 3 different reasons. First, it was a small department, so I could get attention from my advisor. it's an astronomy department. So it's not physics and astronomy. So astronomy is the focus of that. And the third reason is that they have access to a 3.5-meter telescope at Kitt Peak. Actually, they have 17% of the time, and they do have access to smaller telescopes. So if I wanted to become an observational astronomer, I had to actually go and observe myself, get my hands dirty, get to know the details. So I went there, spent 6 wonderful years in Indiana. I will tell you, I didn't want to graduate. But my thesis advisor said, you're not going to retire a graduate student. You can't do that. But it's something that you find your passion, you find your inclination, and you find your place in the world. Because astronomy as a science, it is a tough science. It requires a lot of innovation and thinking outside the box, because all we have in our hands to pretty much work on this 3-dimensional picture of the universe is light. Nothing else, photons. No matter how big your telescope is, a star will look like a dot. That's it. And you have to be very smart and creative on how to analyze your light. And for events that are once in your lifetime sort of thing, what we call transient, the ones that I study, which are novae, for example, eruptions, etc., you have to be very careful understanding your data before you come out and say, oh, I made the discovery. So I really, really like that. It's very detail-oriented, but at the same time, you still have to have your eyes on the big picture. So that is something that really fits with my character and the way that I'm thinking. So I found that astronomy ended up being a very nice kind of match for me. It's like a glove, right? When you're wearing a new pair of gloves and they fit perfectly, you find yourself. So this is what actually guided me to astronomy. This was my trajectory, if you will.
Okay. So you say that stars are light, no matter where you put your point your telescope at, it is light. How do you distinguish, for instance, a star from a sun, or a planet from a sun, or how do you see the difference?
Our sun is a star, and actually our sun is one of the prototypes in astronomy, right? So we learned about other stars through the study of the sun. And actually, here's a secret. The sun is my favorite star, because no matter what, we go back to what we know, solar parameters, right? To what we've learned through the study of the sun, and we still don't know what's happening there in great detail.
Like with black holes, we still do not understand or know what's going on inside these
we don't know
objects.
What's going on inside. We don't know. There's so many open questions in the universe. We just know a teeny tiny little bit that gets the conversation going. So this is another beauty of astronomy. We all build, and science in general, we build on previous science. Every single teeny tiny scientific fact is valuable and it contributes. Yeah. So at some point we just make progress slowly. And also, we learn how to accept that our results may actually be revised based on new data. So astronomy teaches you also humility. Like, you know where you belong in the universe, right? There are stars, there are galaxies, billions of years of history, etc. Mm-hmm. And here we are in a little rock around the sun, right? Living our 100-year life. But at the same time, it teaches us scales and it teaches us collaboration. But let me go back to your main question. How do we know that there's something is a planet versus something is a star? We know it from different effects that of their interaction, but we also know it from size. See, stars are born from a big gas cloud that collapses, self-gravitates somehow. And then there's all kinds of processes that are happening that form the central ball of gas that is the sun, the star that we know. But at the same time, there's always little debris, let's say junk around it. And that junk, at some point, especially when they're further away from the star, they cool down, they collide with each other. From gas, they form little dust, and little dust forms rocks, and rocks form planets. So in principle, planets are the garbage that is left behind from forming a star.
Oh my
And that
God,
was,
I'm living on garbage.
well, I didn't say we're garbage, but I'm saying that that's how
No,
planets
that's
form,
like,
right?
I am living on garbage, a
You're living
universal
in garbage. Well,
garbage.
you're living in a very intelligent garbage ball. Let me put it this way. A beautiful garbage ball, a very unique garbage ball. So planets were predicted to exist around other stars as part of how the stars form. And this is how we know our solar system formed, right? So at some point, even when we were making the predictions, the first models, like, how would theoretically look a planet system around a star, we made certain predictions. And the predictions had to do with observations. Again, the scientific method, you make a hypothesis, you go test it. So based on the tests that we devised, we went out there and we tried to detect the effect on the planet of a little star as it drifts in front of it. Like there's a small drop of the light of that little dot, right? Just a teeny tiny. So we needed very specific equipment. We needed to evolve our technology accordingly so that we get there. And that's why we have all these space telescopes. And at some point we started detecting planets and we found out that yes, our theories are correct. But here's the catch.
Okay.
Nothing looks like our solar system. Our solar system is not exactly the norm. It's not that, you have a star and then you have four little rocks and then you have four little gas things and then you have a whole cloud of stuff. We found such a zoo of exoplanet systems that at some point, remember, you have to be open-minded. At some point, we're taking a step back and try to understand what parameters play into forming those systems. And if you want to make another extension, life around those systems. Can it be sustained? If you find an Earth-sized planet, like a rock like our own, can it sustain life like the one we know? Okay, it's everything organic here. It's not, we can't expand our horizons to other forms of life because we're not exposed to it. We don't really know whether anything else can form life. So this is pretty much how we are detecting those exoplanets. We started with a hypothesis. We went to our observations. We observed. We went back to our hypothesis, which was everything looks like our solar system, and said, nope. And with the new information, we kept going, moving forward. So it's pretty much theory, observation, theory, observation, theory, observation. So this is how we move forward. New observations will provide new data will provide new information will be fed into new theories, new models, and expand and make predictions that will go back to observations and our experiments. So that's how we do that.
So how many of these solar systems that does not look like ours are out there? Do you, well, probably a guess, but do you
Actually,
know how many?
we know right now about 4,000 to 5,000 exoplanets
Okay.
in all types of configurations. So some of them are multiple planets around a single star. Some of them are one or two planets per star. So there are thousands of planetary systems. And from there on, we can extrapolate based on the types of stars that host planets. We can extrapolate to other, or we do extrapolate to other neighborhoods in our galaxy or in other galaxies. The difference is that we just do not have the technology and the sensitivity of our equipment to detect differences or effects on the planet star. So, or even detect them directly. So it's, again, we are at the point where we have a nice theory, most of which we're still trying to figure out how those things form, how those things evolve. Remember, not all stars in our galaxy are the same age, and not all stars in our galaxy are the same mass, so they evolved in a different way. And from there, the burning question, right? What are the conditions for life? Can we find Earth 2.0? That's the and
Can we?
you know something? I'm going to give you a non-committal answer. Why not? Right?
Why
But
not? If
why
we,
not?
if the question is open, or no, if the answer is open, why not? There's most likely a possibility that somewhere in the universe another form of life has spawned from the same Big Bang as we have. So yeah, well, why not?
Why not? So it's not I don't think it's a question of whether life can survive in other parts of the universe, whether we have the capability to communicate with this life or detect it, right? And there are all kinds of assumptions, and there are all kinds of experiments, like SETI, Center for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, right? They're pretty much listening and trying to get signals that could pretty much reveal a civilization similar to ours, assuming that the signals are being emitted. See, even in our search, we make assumptions. There's nothing else we can do. But from there on, it's up to everybody's imagination on what's out there. And don't believe in what Hollywood shows. Seriously, no. I think it's much more beautiful.
I was going to mention that creepy alien civilizations with 20 arms and creepy mouths and etc. is going to eat us. Okay, so fun. But that is absolutely not what has been found in any direction. But
Why does it have to be creepy? Look at life on Earth. It's elegant, it's beautiful, it's smart, it's coexistent. It's anywhere you look, even the smallest bug has a role in our ecosystem.
yeah, but most bugs are looking very creepy when you put a magnifying glass on them.
I'm pretty sure we look very
simple
creepy. We look very creepy sometimes just when they're looking up and they see this big, gigantic thing.
Yeah,
On top of
probably they do not even see us that big that we are compared to them in their world. You say you use telescopes, like SETI is also using telescopes to listen into the universe. You are using telescopes to see into the universe. Am I correct?
That's correct. What SETI is using is a different type of telescope that emits in wavelengths that we cannot see. It's radio waves, the same thing as, oh my goodness, how many of your listeners know about radios? Do we have radios at home? It's pretty much similar frequencies to what your radio at home emits when you want to listen to the news or listen to music. So it needs a different kind of system. It's a different type of detector.
And so the telescopes that you are using, you are not actually looking through a piece of glass or and etc., but it is coming back as computer data, I believe.
That is correct. So the telescopes that I'm using are optical telescopes, meaning that the light that is emitted is within our range of vision. So we can see it all. And pretty much what they use is what we call digital detectors, CCD cameras. We all have a smartphone, right, at home, an iPhone or some kind of smartphone. It's exactly the same detector like the one that we have on our phone to take pictures. It's just a little bit more sensitive, and we can control the way that they take data in digitally in front of our computer. That's all there is to it. You just need big glasses, big telescopes, because you need a big collective area to get photons from very far away. But other than that, yeah, the technology is on your phone.
The difficulty lies in simplicity.
Absolutely.
But not only are you an astronomer, excuse me, you are also and I hope I pronounced this one right, an executive officer. I'm sorry for my English, and CEO at AAVSO and promoting STEM education. But what is the term AAVSO standing for?
AVSO stands for American Association of Variable Star Observers, which is a historically assigned name to us. We started 110 years ago from Cambridge, Massachusetts, to connect professional and amateur astronomers for scientific projects. Even when we started actually from the Harvard Observatory, where the then director of the Harvard Observatory gathered a group of amateur astronomers to take data for his own project. So in principle, we are the first organization that could build a community around acquiring data of stars. and stars that are doing something that is changing with time. And that's why we call them variable. Their brightness is changing with time for whatever reason. Now, as an organization, even when we were founded back in 1911, we had international members. So we do have American in our name, but I think that this is the historic kind of showcasing that we started in the US. We are international. We have members, observers, individuals who come to us from all over the world. And the main idea is, again, to connect professional and non-professional astronomers with science to the level that they want. Our primary educational material and training material is geared towards those who want to take observations of certain stars. So we provide the necessary education, training, we provide help desk, we provide databases. This is a big thing that we do actually here, that collects that data and curates it long-term for professional astronomers or researchers to actually use in their project. We have all kinds of manuals, mentoring programs, and also a very active help desk at our headquarters. But at the same time, we're talking to a community who is just curious to understand what's going on out there, right? So, okay, variable stars, you study them. Why do you bother? What do we learn from them? What have we learned, and why should we keep studying them? And what are the new developments in those stars that are using pretty much citizen science data for key professional astronomical projects? So again, one of the reasons why I love being here, and you're right, I'm the executive officer and CEO of the organization, is that we build international, inclusive, diverse communities. We listen to everybody's voices that contribute to science, and we keep the conversation going. Astronomy has no borders, as I mentioned before.
Yes, you mentioned that the fourth dimension, time. There is no borders. Time does no any border. Do you see there that there is a difference between boys and girls, or male and female scientists exploring this scientific field of astronomy? Are there more boys or are there more girls interested in this scientific field?
You know, traditionally, physical sciences were considered to be gentleman's profession. Traditionally, goes to the previous century, right? Now it's a different millennium. It's a different era. And if you look at my generation and younger generations, you'll see a collaboration, cooperation that makes science better. It is true that men and women, males and females, or any sex that you want to define, think differently. And that is actually enriching science. It brings everything together as a package. You cannot look at, it's the same thing as everything, right? You can't, if you want to find the best solution of a problem, or a solution to begin with, you have to look at it from all sides. You can't just listen to one voice and follow one route. That is not how science works, and that is not how anything should be working, frankly. Yeah. So yeah. It's not only in terms of, gender that you can see differences in the way of thinking. It's also in terms of culture, how people grow up, what they bring with them, the way that they're thinking about the world, their lives, their everything. It's also a matter of professional preparation. In our organization, we have lots of people who come from technical fields, right? Engineers, mechanics, etc. But we also have scientists, biologists, chemists, non-astronomers, right? But we also have lawyers, and we also have teachers, and we also have your everyday person who is doing something practical for their living. Anyone per our mission. And those individuals bring in something very unique and special to astronomy that makes us think, again, outside the box. So the AVSO not only is pushing science forward, but also it makes it a multidisciplinary science, a democratic science, if you will, but a very enriched science, exactly because we bring all the knowledge and all the expertise from everywhere. We always have something new to learn. And one of the things that I really love interacting with our members and our observers is that there's always something new for me to learn, or a different angle that I can see a problem. So we all grow together.
So, and this is the importance that women and girls are entering this scientific field. It is the importance of creative thinking.
It is the importance of creative thinking. It is the importance of contributing, all of us contributing to science. It is also the importance of learning how to interact like human beings. It's a matter of decency. Let's talk together. Why do we have to be in a push-pull kind of competitive relationship? So it is not only for women and girls to find a voice and get a rightful place in this field, but it's also for boys and men to listen and understand what the other side says. So it's all about cooperation. And as I mentioned, one of the things that I'm really enjoying in our generation, younger generations, is that they're all equally determined to progress together. And there are these respectful communities out there where everybody has a voice, everybody has a contribution, everybody provides value. So I think that we are on a very right track. I'm hoping that, maybe sometime in my lifetime, we won't be talking about boys in science or girls in science. We'll be talking about science.
So you think that it is should or take a second look at how we teach today science?
Yes, I think we should take a second look. And it's not necessarily because we're doing something wrong. It's because I think we can do better. We can do better to empower dynamics in our classroom. We can do better to amplify voices that traditionally or culturally are suppressed one way or another. And I think that we need to encourage creativity in the classroom. As I mentioned before, kids, young children are the original scientists. They're doing experiments, right? And sometimes when we bring them in school, we kind of hammer that out of them. We kind of disciplining them in a specific kind of mold, into a specific mold that is not necessary. It's definitely necessary to get them in a workforce, but it's not necessary to get them to be creative and independent thinkers. So that's why I would like to see a little bit different in a little bit of difference in education. Having said that, I'm not an educator, so I really admire those who teach and those who actually interact with those young individuals. And there's a lot of power in what they can or cannot do. And there's lots of pressure and lots of challenges. So if there's a teacher out there who is watching us, thank you so much for your service. Keep at it.
I briefly mentioned that you are promoting STEM education. How exactly are you? I believe you went to schools or are going to schools.
Sometimes I do. I do promote pretty much all kinds of extracurricular education or all kinds of education in and outside the classroom. As I said, educating oneself can be a lifelong journey. So it's not only in schools, but also in more informal settings like amateur astronomy clubs. Of course, I participate in professional conferences, but that's different. And groups that promote STEM in youth, and they're not necessarily in schools, right? So these are groups that are formed, and they're channeling science to a specific demographic of individuals. So STEM education is not just school. I just want to point that out. There's a lot more in that.
Yes, creativity and exploring and etc. That is what also STEM should be, or STEAM as some people call it. Now,
STEAM, I will actually go with STEM with two M's. It's science, technology, engineering, math, and medicine.
Medicine?
Yes.
Okay, you have to explain me medicine, because that is for me chemistry, sort of.
Yeah, it can be chemistry and it can be biology. It's a field of science. So when we're promoting STEM, we're promoting pretty much independent, creative, scientific thinking everywhere, no matter which field of science one decides to follow.
Okay, that's pretty new for me. I haven't heard that up until today.
There you go. We live and learn.
Now I lost all my questions at this moment. I had such nice in my head. Okay, STEM with double M. Well, it is. We can think about it at least. In the beginning, Stella, you said that you were a very active child on this in this area of experiments, and that your parents were a little bit afraid for what was going to explode or something. Were your parents your role model for stepping into this in this scientific field of astronomy, or was there somebody else, a teacher, or perhaps somebody on television that you saw?
You know something? My parents have always been my cheerleaders. They've always been the people who supported me, my safety net, my safety nest. I was very fortunate to grow up in, as I said, supportive household, a modest household, but education was up front and center. And my parents made sure that me and my brother did not have to worry about anything growing up, other than our learning, right? And of course, our crazy playtime and be safe. Role models, are individuals you look up to for your life, and you reach out to either as individuals who influence your decisions or as individuals who can help you make decisions by providing a different perspective. And I was very fortunate, I still am, to have both role models and peer mentors, that individuals I can rely on when it comes to pretty much anything in my life, from professional career questions to scientific collaborations to even personal support. We did go through a very tough year in 2020. Our whole life changed in many, many ways. And without having this kind of a support group, although digital, right? We can feel isolated. And I have to tell you, I did not feel isolated this past year. So these are individuals who either come from my own profession, so I know them since I was born in astronomy, if you will. And one of these is my undergraduate thesis advisor, who's a family friend now, and she's like a godmother to me. Just every time I meet her, okay, how are we doing? And it's wonderful, wonderful to actually catch up with her because she has stories to tell. She saw me growing up in astronomy, right? But also I have individuals who are not astronomers, and they're people I can actually reach out to for a different point of view, right? So this is what I think about A, B, or C situation. What do you think? And they know me enough to be honest with me. I really appreciate honesty when it comes to getting feedback, etc. But they provide perspectives outside my little bubble, and that's what helps me help the organization I'm into enrich my life and actually move forward with much more creative ideas. It's really important to have someone to look up to. And it's really important to look up to those people for the right reasons. And the right reasons are different for each person. For me, it's more of a person who reflects the ethics that I grew up with, the standards that I grew up with, the values that I grew up with, and the values that I evolved into. And also, honesty is something that I really appreciate in all my relationships. So they can actually tell me when, in their view, a decision I'm about to make or a trajectory I'm taking has pitfalls and what those pitfalls they think it is. So, you look at a problem from all sides. It's a little bit difficult sometimes when you are part of the issue or the bubble, right? So you need someone to look from outside in. So yeah, role models, super important. Peer mentoring, super important. Having a group of individuals my age, not necessarily my gender, my age, but my kind of professional situation, although they're not astronomers, to even exchange ideas and bounce challenges on and off is extremely important. And celebrate victories, right?
Yes. So exploring your own capabilities, your own brilliancy, your own intellect by looking at many different people who have, which are sort of less laying in this realm that you are interested in, and which can direct you in being becoming well, a brilliant astronomer. I myself had, when I was a child, I had a very small telescope, a
Mm,
plastic one, you know, such a thing from the toy shop. And I was looking through through that little tube, and I saw, like you said in the beginning, just light. And
yeah.
I couldn't distinguish one light from another, and neither could I keep it still. So it was
Yeah, yeah,
always wobbling in the air. So, but eventually, physics got my attention, and especially nuclear and particle physics. Ooh, I
mhm.
love it. So,
Cool.
and holographics. Oh my God! Don't start holographics. Okay, anyway, Stella. As we are also talking to young people logically, hence the organization that you are the director and CEO of, do you have any additional advice for young people who like to study the bodies, the objects in our cosmic freezer?
Objects in a cosmic freezer. Never thought about it this way. All I would like to tell people is to just do it. Get started. Don't be afraid of failure. We all failed. We can somehow, but we learned from our failures, and that's okay. Don't be afraid of difficulties. There's no such thing as easy, honestly. Be stubborn and just follow your dreams. Your dreams. Don't let anyone else dissuade you from what you want to do. Yes, and yes, you're going to be successful. And also, a personal advice: relax. I was such a stressed out teenager. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do with my life? And everything worked out. And I think that I could have not necessarily done better, but it could have benefited me to be a little bit more relaxed. Enjoy life, enjoy your friends, have a hobby. So other than your studies, focus on your studies. I was not born with IQ 150. I had to work hard. I am pretty much an average person, but I work hard. That's all, right? But at the same time, don't forget that life is yours to enjoy, and find some pleasure in even little things. Go have ice cream, have a lemonade, make a lemonade, garden, play with your dog, create your first radio, broadcast on YouTube. Do something that you yourself feel that is right for you. Be creative. Science requires creativity, you know. Again, we're building three-dimensional, four-dimensional pictures of the universe just by having photons in our hand. So we have to at least use our imagination of how those objects look like. Yes, grab photons, grab photons.
Yes, right. Oh my God. And I'm also doing that. Come on, you physics minded. No, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Stella, I see that the hour is almost over, so I'd like to thank you for talking to you. It was my privilege
Same with
to
you.
speak with you. I personally, I really enjoyed this one. But before we close out, can you tell us where we can find more information about your research, about your work in STEM promoting, and for how people to contact you if they have questions for you?
So let's follow the simplest way. I am on LinkedIn. So if people want to contact me, we can definitely connect through that. And you can see lots of information about myself. But also I would like to encourage individuals to take a look at the AAVSO homepage and the resources we have, because they're free. They're free for all. So www.aavso.org. There's lots of material about astronomy, how to get started if you're curious to find out what on earth it is that we're doing and how we are promoting STEM everywhere. And actually use some of the material yourselves. As simple as that. So thank you so much for having me here. It's been such a pleasure discussing everything with you. And I hope that your listeners will be encouraged to at least take a look at nature with different goggles.
Thank you all for tuning in this week on The Next Truth, where science and myth meet. Make sure to visit our website, www.nexttruth.com. That is nexttruth, all in one word.com. And let us know what you think about our podcast. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we would appreciate a rating on our website in the section The Next Truth Podcasts. Or if you would simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us too. I am Maria Anna van Driel with The Next Truth. Be sure to tune in next week for our next episode.